Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. Today's video we're going to be talking about trailer tongue jack maintenance. Some of you guys may be boating in saltwater environments, or maybe you just got a really old boat and your tongue jack's giving you trouble. Maybe it's got a squeaky noise, or maybe it's just tough to move it up and down. Whatever the case, we're going to show you how to service this jack, lubricate it internally. It's going to involve some disassembly and reassembly. Or if you don't want to do all that, if it takes too much time, or if the jack's just too old, we're going to show you how to upgrade to a new tongue jack, one that we have in the JetBoatPilot store. We have now partnered with West Marine, and some of the things that we are recommending that are available right there, you can add them to your cart, have them shipped directly to your home from JetBoatPilot. So today we're going to show you how to do the servicing and the swap out. Before we get started into that though, let's talk about some of the things that you're going to need to do this work. We have over on our table here some shop towels, rubber gloves, socket set, hammer of some sort. We're using a 5/32 punch. We got some needle nose pliers, some vice grip needle nose pliers. You're going to need those. Some sort of flathead screwdriver, some sockets. We're using a 3/4 on the larger, and then a 9/16 plus a wrench for the smaller. You're going to need some marine grease. Recommend you go get that from your local store. Something that's marine rated for lubrication. Preparatory steps. I would recommend that either A, put your boat behind your tow vehicle to get the weight off the tongue so you can get the jack up off the ground. If you're doing this and you've got a floor jack, you can do that, forklift, whatever the case, just get the thing up off the ground. All right, well, good deal. Well, let's jump into this first part here. We're going to be doing the servicing. In order to service this jack, there's a couple things you're going to need to do. First thing you're going to need to do is pry off this cap right on the top here. And I'm going to set that aside. I'm going to grab you some rubber gloves because it's going to get a little bit greasy here. The first step to servicing this jack, you have to get the handle off. In order to get the handle off, there's a pin on the inside. So we're going to use our hammer and our center punch. We're going to punch that pin out. So if you can see with the camera here, what we've done is we've rubbed some of the grease out of the way, and there's a pin sitting right there. You can see that little pin. And we chose this 5/32 punch because it's kind of the right diameter to remove that pin. Gonna have to hit it just right. So bring the camera in tight here. I want to show you a lesson that we learned taking this apart. Do you see this pin right here? We knocked that pin downward from the top to cause it to come out the bottom here. And that pin got wedged against the gear and down below. What I'd recommend you do in order to prevent that is to just knock the pin about maybe half of that distance out of this little piece of steel here, and rotate it around and grab it with a pair of vice grip needle nose pliers. Ours got wedged against the gear, and we really had to struggle to get it to free itself up. Finally, we got it free, so now we have access to the pin from the bottom side. We can try to pry it out this way with the needle nose vice grips. All right, next we're going to clamp onto the pin. Pull that pin out. We'll set this aside and reuse it once it's time to put the jack back together. All right, so now we pulled the pin out, the handle comes out. Just give it a firm pull. Once you pull it out, you'll notice that the gear, the vertical gear, comes out as well. So we'll set those aside too. In the bottom, we've got another gear down here, and that gear also comes out. If these guys come out here, just recall they need to go back in place before you reinstall. Bottom gear is awful slick because there's lots of grease on it. Simply just pulling up on it with your needle nose pliers, you can get it out. Next step, now that we've got the gear out, if you look inside, see me slide that pin right there? So that pin has got to come out. That pin, we slide it. We want to make sure that that pin is aligned with the hole right here. All right, now we got the pin out. We'll set that down here as well. A little bit longer than the first pin that came out. All right, so now that we've got the pin out, we'll be able to remove the lower half from the upper half. What we found is best is just rotate. Find kind of a midway location for your jack, and then this should just wind itself out. So now that we've wound it out of the inside of the main assembly there, you'll see the threads here. We would call this a Z-screw on a CNC machine. But these threads, they get corroded, especially in saltwater environments. And in order to get these threads to move smoothly through the assembly, you've got to lubricate. This one doesn't have the Zerk fitting, so it's kind of hard to do. Probably not even intended to be serviced. We're going to show you if you wanted to preserve the life, maybe one more season or two, then this is going to be how you do that. The screw on the tongue jack is pretty corroded up here. So what I'm probably going to do before I grease this is I'm going to scrub it with a stiff bristle brush, like a metal brush, metal bristle brush, and knock off any of this buildup, get it clean. Probably going to run it through just a quick degreasing cycle just to kind of make sure we get all the crap off of it. Probably going to clean here and then go back with some good grease. All right, so now we're going to take our Z-screw, I'm going to call it, and we're going to clean it up really good, get some of this corrosion off. I've got a couple of stiff bristle brushes here, steel brushes, wire brushes if you call them. We've got some towels, some degreaser, of course the grease. We'll start with just spraying the degreaser all over. And I'm going to just remove any of the residual grease that's there kind of first. So I'm going to start with a good coat. Lots of corrosion here on this leg. This would tell me that this is probably too far gone to want to bring it back. There's just so many pits and corrosion on the leg. I think I would probably want to replace this. I want to show this fully through on the video here just so you see the reassembly. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and grease the screw. And I think it's going to be important to grease the entire screw, as well as make sure there's a good application of grease down at the base where the screw passes through the threads. The threads are located inside the leg. So I'll show you that in a moment here. You're going to want to grease this whole screw, but if you notice as I twist on it, that screw retracts inside this leg here. So as I turn it, we're going to be basically, the screw will be receding down inside the leg. As the grease is applied heavily, it'll carry into those threads, which is what we want. And this is why you want the rubber gloves on this job. All right, so now I have fully greased the screw. I like to go back and give just a little coat of grease on the leg itself. This is going to be passing metal on metal. All right, now we're going to reinsert the lubricated tongue jack lower into the upper. And I think what we've learned is that coming out, there was no threads up here that's just kind of pulled out. So I didn't necessarily have to unthread it coming out. It was just kind of pulling on it. There it is. So we found that the easiest way is just to stand it vertical, then bring it back up like that. And now we're going to find the pinhole, and we're going to add our pin back through the hole. You have to apply pressure on it in order to get it to prevent it from dropping down. So we got our pin. We're going to slide that back in the hole. There we go. Now the pin is now trapped in the hole. We're going to grab our lower gear. You see this little profile on the bottom? We've got this little recess. That's for the pin to align inside of this gear, to make sure when we drop the gear in that it aligns with that pin, so that when we turn it actually rotates the entire leg, the Z-screw. We'll try to drop this down and make it sit in that pin receptacle there. You have to also make sure that that pin is sitting kind of in the center, so there's an equal amount of pin sticking out the one side versus the other, so when it drops down you get this nice flush like you see here. All right, now that we've done that, take our part that kind of came out earlier, we'll stick that back into the sidewall here. So you have the flange on the inside and the round on the outside. All right, now we're going to take our gear. Now this gear aligns with the handle, so the handle has to go on at the same time. So we'll press the handle back through the front, and then we'll align with the gear. And hopefully we'll get it to rotate into place. There we go. And then Handle goes all the way through the backside. There we go. And now the next trick is going to be to put the pin, the little pin, back in that hole. So coming out, if you remember, the handle was down. When we started, the handle was up. So we're going to begin with the pin kind of in this handle down position. All right, now I'm going to punch it to where it's evenly entering the hole both sides. It's in, it's secure. So now our handle's in place, secured well. Last step we want to do is grease this entire housing here. So before we put the cap on, we got a nice, good, fresh coat of grease there. When I first started this project, I thought all I would have to do is pop the cap, squirt some grease in here, and it would just run on down. That is not how this project works on this jack. And that is why in the next part of this video, we're going to show you the new jack we selected has a Zerk fitting, makes this process a whole lot less headache to service. All right, so we're going to move this all around, get it all inside, make sure it's not going to squirt out the top. We'll get our cap, situate the cap back on top, and we are all set. I'm going to rotate, smooth as butter. Now the test, we put the weight on it, let's see how it sounds. It was making an awful noise when we started this. It wasn't even really working. That's moving smoothly, about the same weight that I remember it. A little bit of an effort to crank this jack, but not bad. I'm doing a 25-foot boat here, so it's got a lot of weight on it. Don't know what the tongue weight is. It's probably somewhere in the 300 or 400 pound range. This is a 1,000 pound jack. Yeah, it's smooth now. Works great, no squeaking. Hope this video has been helpful to you. If you've got questions about this, be it either the servicing portion or the actual replacement, feel free to hit us in the comments below. Be glad to answer those questions for you. Also, we'll put a link in the description below where you can find this tongue jack in the JetBoatPilot store. As I mentioned earlier, JetBoatPilot is now partnered with West Marine. We're very proud to be partnered with them. And we're selling a lot of the West Marine items in the JetBoatPilot store, so we're glad to help you with those things as well. We appreciate you watching this video. And by the way, if this one was helpful to you, check this one out.